early bird. Possibly wake up at 7 a.m. That's when my day would start. And, kids going to school, or if it's holiday, something different. A number of things, being in the payment space, looking after a whole continent, freshening up, looking at my emails, what's coming in, engaging with my team, trying to find out what's really happening, trying to check what's happening out there, geopolitics, etc. And just catching up on, what other new thing has come up. That's pretty much how my day starts. Yeah, moments, if I look back, that has led to where I am and possibly still where I want to go. There are many, I can say that, because the way I define success is in milestones. Success is not a destination, it's a journey, and it's many, many milestones that you make. And a lot of things really contributed to where I am today. And number one is just making the right connections and relationships. Number two is making sure I'm always present, I'm always available in places where people will notice me and people will also appreciate. Again, I remember when I started working for Barclays as a salesperson, and I knew it was very competitive, but then I had to self-promote. There's something I call self-promote, and that means I want to be the top salesperson. I want to be the one on top. I want to get rewarded. I want to get awarded. I mean, everything. So every time, in every step of everything I've done, I would always want to come out and demonstrate and self-promote myself. So be it even in high school, where I had to demonstrate that I can lead by being part of drama and acting. And was a lead actor, I remember then. If I take it back to my upbringing, I was a youth leader in Kariobangi South. And, I started a garbage collection, as you've already read that. And, I would marshal different my friends, the neighbors, who would come up with all these nice fancy things to do. So in each and every step of my life, if I look at it, I can see there was small pockets of self-promoting, coming out and just demonstrating that, I can do it. Even though I might not have the relevant experience, but I was showing up. I was self-promoting. And even today, I've shown up. So it's just self-promoting, it's just being there. And I'm not selective. I can't do this because maybe of the person and all that. We live in an environment where it's a people-driven, well, be it in technology, be it whatever it is that you do. So I can say the small milestones keep me going. They got me where I am, and I still believe we are going far ahead with the small milestones, yeah. Africa is saying a lot of things, and this one you can take it from geopolitics, you can take it from technology, you can take it from regulations and all that, but I'll narrow it down. The costs are too high for doing business in Africa. Can you at least do something about it? Hey, the internet penetration is growing, but the costs of data is so high. I cannot do my YouTube channels because the moment I put this data, the bundles I don't know where they go to. Infrastructure is a challenge. Maybe if I'm a farmer and I want to transport my coffee from X to Z, the roads are not, passable and all, it's a whole, the regulation maybe is not friendly. We need favorable regulatory frameworks where we are being included into the conversations, into these policies that are being put together. Africa is saying, before you execute, can we formulate a policy? Because we live in an era where you execute something, and that's when you come back and think of how to formulate it. And in turn, we always get it wrong, because that's the time you're going back to listen to Africa after you've already implemented. And then Africa is saying, no, what you've implemented is not right. It does not speak to me. It doesn't favor me. So why don't you ask me first? Then let me help you build up on this. So for me, across, Africa is saying, why don't you open borders so that I can trade easily? Honestly, I just want to move from here to Nigeria freely without any barriers. Why don't you leaders just come together and agree on something? Then I can just travel easily and freely. Why do I have to import grains from Ukraine? And yet my neighbor Uganda has the sweetest bananas, and are we trading with Uganda? Why are we not trading with them? So I think if we listen to all these things that we see every day, then we continue to bridge the divide, be it geopolitics, be it trade, be it infrastructure, be it regulations, be it policy making, laws, passing of laws, internet penetration. If we listen to the end consumer, what they are saying, and that's what they are saying, the cost of doing business is high, the cost of internet is high, infrastructure is not good, there is no access. So how do we achieve this? And to me, this is where collaboration comes in play. This is where you have different regulators coming together to say, how can we pull together so that we can achieve a common goal to build up? I had a speaking event in Ghana, in Ethiopia, in Uganda, in South Africa. And I'll tell you one of the things that keeps on coming around regulation. And the guys say, if only regulators could be collaborators to really make it so easy for us. If only by the time we are building, by the time we are doing products, and regulators would have a department where these people are focusing on, if a bank is trying to develop something, that the bank tells the regulator, this is what you are building. And they have a team that works with you as you build, so that by the time it's ready for approval, they don't take you through this no objection process where sometimes can take up to 6 months or even more. Just be a collaborator. Collaborate with me as I build. You're regulating me, yes, but also collaborate with me. So these are some of the common conversations you'll hear, regardless which part of Africa you go to. We want regulator to be involved, or access is an issue, or internet is expensive, or the cost of doing business is inhibitive, or I cannot. These are common narratives you'll continue to hear across in Africa. The conversation is happening. The regulators are slowly coming together. Sometimes the challenge is what? You have the banks regulator, insurance regulator, fintech regulator. All these regulators, they operate, telcos regulator, they all operate separately. So by the time the telcos finish whatever they are doing, then they still have to go back to another regulator to say, this is actually what we are doing, can we? But imagine if they all come together, and then there's a conversation that keeps on happening around that. It would make it so easy for everyone. The one thing I always say from an African lens is Africa is not a monolithic continent. So anybody who wants to invest into Africa, don't come with the mindset that you're coming into one country. Africa is a country. It's not a country. Each country has its own digital appetite. Each country has its own nuances. Each country has its own culture. Each country has its own regulatory framework. So you really need to come in and unpack Africa from that lens, right? And I say that because all the way from South Africa to Nigeria, regulations are different, are not the same. Infrastructure is different, access is different. So from a cards perspective, or from a digital perspective or technology, you'll come and find in Kenya, as an example, M-Pesa is very dominant when you talk of mobile money. But if you go to South Africa, you'll find cards is, there's a lot of people already well accustomed to cards, to use cards more than mobile money. Why? Because infrastructure, accessibility, internet. If you go to the upcountry side or the village side equivalents, maybe in South Africa, you'll find somebody equivalent to my mom is using a card comfortably. But in Nairobi or in Kenya, my mom maybe in Kisumu has never used a card. So mobile money works for them. And that's why you see when you think of Africa, context is important. In each country you go to, there's cultural differences. There is, you can even take it further all the way down, right? So that's a lens by which I always advise anyone who wants to do business in Africa. Number one, it's not a monolithic continent. Each country has its own nuances. Each country has its own digital appetite. Whatever Kenya wants to do today, based on their strategy, based on their, how they think around growing the ecosystem, is not what Rwanda is going to do, and it's not what Uganda is going to do. So anyone who wants to do anything, regardless, it doesn't have to be around technology, it can be across. It doesn't have to be about cards, it doesn't have to be, you name it. You must come from the ivory tower. If you go to Uganda, understand what is the context. Appreciate the fact that in Uganda, 70% of the population is youth. So what does that tell you? You know, appreciate the fact that the whole continent in Africa, the youth average mean age is around maybe 19 or 20, and you just need to keep on unpacking it. So when you keep on unpacking Africa, you're able to drive the conversation you want to drive, and you have to go to the ground. And remember, I always say the future of anything is not in the product, technology, it's in the people, it's in the human. Whatever you're designing, design it with the human in mind. The future is not technology, it's in the human person. And I like saying technology keeps on evolving, but the human psychology remains the same. So we really need to keep on keeping on thinking around how do we build around the behavior of the consumer? And that's across Africa. What is constant is you must follow the consumer. It's a good question. I mean, historically, if you look at it, banks, if there are people who we believe in and we trust our banks, regardless the frauds and everything else that you know come around. Historically, that's what banks are known for, keeping our money, right? And they build our trust over time. It's been built over time. It's not an overnight. It's been over time, right? And to me, trust is not about telling you, I'm going to protect you because there's a fraud solution. Trust is not, I'm going to give you the best technology that is there. Trust is not giving me case studies and all that, no. To me, trust is, it's a whole chain. How, whatever product that I'm putting together, have I considered your needs as a start? I have tick. What are your needs? Your needs are, I want to send money through my phone in this and this way because I cannot access my parents or whatever it is. So it's an ongoing conversation where I've built a product that suits you, so it's easy for you to adopt it. Now, if today somebody just comes and says, hey Frank, there is this product and I want you to try it, I'd be like, hey, can you explain it to me? There's a doubt element. Already when somebody's coming to sit and say, okay, I don't know what this thing, let me just hear what you have to say. There's already doubt. To me, that doubt is a level of mistrust because, and then if you leave and you call me and I say, you know, I never really understood what you're selling, what you're talking to, there's a trust issue. From the word go, I think you just got it wrong. Now, if you walk to a bank today and you open an account and you're given a card, you have no option but to trust. There are those ones where you have no option but to trust that this card is going to work, my PIN is not going to be compromised. So what do? You get your card, but you're told these are the things you need to do, these are the things you need to avoid to do. So again, it's up to you to sit back and say, I'm trusting my bank because of X, Y, Z. There's trust that if you're doing products or selling products, you really need to sit and work with the customers. But also you realize even what banks do is, after they give you a card, what follows through? They still engage you. They send you an SMS, they remind you, don't use your card here, don't do this and this, don't swipe your card here. They give you SMS alerts every time you transact. Every time you go online, there is a one-time password, we call it OTP, to give you comfort. By doing all these little things, they are building on trust and showing you we care about you, we are behind you, whatever transactions you do. So trust is not also a destination. Trust is you have to keep on keeping on, be it with your customer, be it with your partner, in any form. Trust keeps on going. And that's why you see, you can be doing everything nice, and then one day, just one thing, fraud on your card, destroys it all. So it's a continuous conversation. So maybe I'll speak from a technology perspective, right? And the reason I say it from a technology perspective is I always see we go to R&Ds like, we go into these rooms and formulate solutions, products, and then we come and push them. And you come and say, hey, we've launched something, and there's no adoption. Right? Where I see the gap is the fact that we continue to build, but we don't have enough information, we don't have enough intel, we don't have enough feedback to make sure that we are building for the right people and for the right audience. There's nothing wrong with me coming and talking to you and just finding out, so what drives you? I mean, what's the conversation, Gen Z, millennials, and all that stuff? When you listen, and that's why I always say, we tend to speak to Africa, we don't listen to Africa. When the narrative changes and we start listening to Africa, then we'll start bridging that gap. There's an article I did on my LinkedIn where I said, people are saying the future of cards, there's no future of cards. And I told them, 15, 20 years ago, I was somewhere in the US attending a conference, and somebody was presenting and saying, there's no future of cards. And I was like, wow, cards has no future. 20 years later, cards are still here. We have over 5 billion cards in circulation globally today, right? And they're still there. So it's not so much that it's not going to be there, but it's how you build around it, right? So I think the gap is just understanding there is what we read in the papers, there is what we read in the dailies, there is what we read from the consultings, the thoughts and everything else, but what's the real thing on the ground? So the real deal here is to bridge the gap, is Africa needs to start listening and stop speaking to its people by forcing products, solutions, offers down the throat. When I listen, I'll give you options. I'll give you an example. Today, you have your phone, you have your wallet, your wallet has your card, your phone maybe you have a number of apps in your phones. You know what that has done for you? It has given you options as a consumer. So if you're in a restaurant, you can say, let me pay using M-Pesa. But if M-Pesa is down, you'll be like, no, wait a minute, I have a card, So what we need to give consumers are options, if you think of it from a payments perspective, so that I'm comfortable. When I'm traveling, I'll know I can't use M-Pesa, for example, for international transactions. but I can use my card because of comfort and everything. So to me, the gap remains, are we really listening to Africa? And the moment we start listening to Africa, fintechs and all these people in the technology field becomes just enablers to bridge the gap. Right, mobile money, M-Pesa, so to speak. I mean, this is my personal opinion, which I used to send my parents money using a Kamba bus. And a Kamba is, it's no longer there. And maybe some youngsters will not even understand what a Kamba bus is, so that's how old I am, right? And you'd go to the bus station, you have your envelope, put the cash into some paper, fold it nicely, put the name, and then, you know, your mom will have to go to a bus station, pick the envelope, and they have the money in cash, right? And it was working, because that's all we knew, and it was okay. And I think the simplicity of it is what also made it what it is today. It was very simple. And remember, it started with feature phones. You know, now smartphones came late, and that's when the app was built. But before it was, you know, type star this and this, go to this menu, do this and this, and then send the money. And people got excited like, wow, in a click of a second, I can send money. So I think the simplicity, because what else if you ask me, the convenience with M-Pesa, you'll not realize how much it costs. If you ask somebody today, how much are you charged for sending 1,000 or 5,000? They don't know. But all they know is they've received. But what they also know is, if I ask you for 1,000, Bob, please don't just send 1,000. Send 1,200 plus Yakutoa, like they say. Sometimes I don't even know how much Yakutoa is, but they just know if you send me 1,050, they'll know 50 Yakutoa. So even if Yakutoa is 70, they're happy with the 50. You get? So I think it's how they simplified it. And the fact that where banks and all these other players could not be there, they really made it easy. But to me, it's a simplicity with M-Pesa and getting to understand the market. They understood the Kenyan market, they understood the thinking, and they knew the gap they were going to fill. And that is why, to me, I think it was successful. It's not a cost issue with M-Pesa, it's a convenience issue with M-Pesa, right? The rest of the value adds that they do is just building up on what they already are doing. But is that, and that's why you see they got it so much right in Kenya. And it remained very successful here, maybe compared to other countries, because it was done very well. Yeah. Wow, am I allowed to create my own currency?
That's why we're here. What would you name?
No, I think it's just, you know, when you are so much, when you expose, your environment really determines a lot of things. Honestly speaking, 50% of transactions globally happen in dollars, over 50%. And everybody, the first answer would be $1, right? It's a fast reflex and all that. So I don't know even if I come with a Molla dollar. Of course, some people already say my name, Molla Cash and all that stuff. So I don't know even if I come up with a Molla dollar, it's gonna make any.
If you listen to the guy on the ground.
Well, the guy on the ground wants something totally different. Money just enables them to achieve those things that they want, right? So I think standard number one is, you know, I appreciate my local currency and all that. Let me tell you, there are countries you go to. If you get their currency, my friends, you cannot convert it back So there are countries when you fly, like in Ethiopia, if you go with dollars and you trade, exchange, make sure unachukua kidogo sana, because when you come out, they don't take their currency back to give you dollars. They say, no, that's yours, go with it. So it doesn't help you outside of the country, right? Our currency in Kenya maybe can be used, maybe TZ, I don't know, maybe UG exchange. But outside of that, maybe if I was in Europe, I'll sit back and say euro, because there are 17 countries that accept euro. In Africa, none of us can use our currency in the other person's country. So maybe a Mueller currency would help, but I don't know. But yeah. You can look at it, there's a technical, like from a technical numbers perspective, for what I do today, which is, driving digital conversations, processing in the card space. So from that perspective, my success would be, how many banks have I partnered with, and am I supporting and enabling to issue quality cards to their end consumer? The debit, credit, prepaid card that you have in your pocket is produced by me as a plastic, and then we are certified by the schemes here in Visa and MasterCard, right? So success would look like how many, not just cards, but quality cards that you enable banks to produce, so that they can equally enable their end consumer like yourself to be able to transact with ease, it's durable and all that. So that's number one. Number two is also, how many other banks can I be able to work with them during their processing, if they want to do processing of transactions, cost effective, minimum downtime, 100% customer support, and all the clients are happy, being upgrades and all that. To me, success is being an enabler. Whenever a bank is not calling me every day, or I'm not getting complaints, then I know things are moving, and that is success. And that in turn turns out to maybe profits and all. But also success simply means taking care of my team members, making sure they are comfortable, working very close with my colleagues in the different countries they are in. Because if that is done right, and that's why they say if you take care of people, the profits come in. But if you focus on the profits, you lose people. There are no profits. So there are different ways you can measure it. But I think the main one is just take care of people. And everything else that you're trying to succeed in is just gonna come through and build up on itself. But overall, success also is a journey. It's never a destination. So you build it every other day. I do something called Executive Connect. And Executive Connect to me is where I realized there was a gap with the executives and having a place where they can have meaningful conversations, meaningful connections that have positive outcome. And so I started this platform called Executive Connect. I bring in executives, C-suites, and other aspiring senior executives, and they have meaningful conversations. So this is something that has been going on, and it's picked up quite well. And when I see that happening, when I see Anne Moriah, CEO Deloitte, seated and 35 people listening to her and asking her questions, when I see Rispa Ohaga, the group CFO EABL, when I see Martin Oduor, who doesn't know Martin, right? When I see Mary Wamai, coming together, sacrificing a whole day, 9 hours, 8 hours, to listen to executives and ask and answer questions. I enjoy that, and to me, that's a very, very great achievement and success, because it goes by the line I call, as we rise, we lift. So I've realized, as much as I've risen to where I am today, I need to lift other people. I realize as much as the level I'm at today, I need to send the elevator down for other people to come up. But sometimes you don't need to do it as yourself. You need to create a platform where people can be able to do that, connect and mingle. So that's one of the things that I'm actively involved in right now, separate from working, where I bring all these top executives and I connect them to other senior executives, and they have a cozy place just to talk and chit chat. Well done. Well done. I mean, I go back to K-South more often, and of course, most of them I not remember, because the guys I grew up with also, you know. But there's that element of, well done. It's not about where you're from. It's not about where you're born. It's not about your parents. Because remember, we don't choose our parents. We don't choose where we are born. We don't choose where we go to school to some extent. We don't choose our neighbors. There's a lot of things we don't choose. But the one thing we have to choose is where we are going. So we made different choices when we were there, a number of us. It does not mean me being where I am, I'm better than the other person, because happiness is relative. I've seen people in big houses not happy. I've seen people in very small houses and very happy. I remember in K-South, we used to play in the rain, bare feet, and even if it's 2 meals a day, but we were the happiest individuals ever. But then here you are, you've all grown up, and you have this slightly bigger house, and you're so stressed. You're wondering, where did that fun go to? So one of the things I see them saying, or they would say, is, well done, my friends, well done, and each of us have different paths. And for your path, well done.
Follow us on social media for more insights and more info. Fintech Association of Kenya is the voice of fintech in Kenya.